You know that voice in your head that says you're not good enough? I just came from a conference with some of the biggest creators in the space, some with a reach of over 10 million. And the big secret, they hear it too. We all suffer from the same inner critic. You are not alone in this. Let's dive in. Now, I just came from a conference that was absolutely incredible, and I got to hang out with some of the biggest creators in the space. And the one thing that came to mind, the more and more we talked, is they all have limiting beliefs. They all suffer from the same things that we tell ourselves that are like hyper negative and doesn't really make sense and doesn't really work, but they all do it. The big difference between them and say us is they turn it into a strength and they power through it, or they just recognize that it exists, ignore it, and keep going anyway. But it was a huge takeaway for me because it's not that I expected that they wouldn't have those. I didn't realize that some of them suffer from it even more than you would think. And we're talking some of the biggest creators in the game. I had the pleasure of having dinner with some of the best creators in the space and got to hang out and talk with them. We're talking people that run $40, $50 million creative empires, and they still say things like imposter syndrome. It kind of made my gut curdle when I heard it. And I was just like, wow, I'm constantly yelling at you guys not to say this stuff, and these guys are doing it anyway. But it's one of those things where you hear it. Actually, Sean Cannell says this all the time. You hear the fear, you acknowledge the fear, you just punch it in the face and keep going. I know that sounds easier said than done, but the reality is it's the only way to do this. You can't do this thinking your way out of it. You kind of got to turn the thinking part off and just get your content out. I was talking to a creator who arguably has one of the most funny sounding voices in the world, and yet puts off that negative thought because everyone says, so many of you have said it. I hear people say this all the time when I'm doing these conferences. I don't like the sound of my voice. Reality is nobody likes the sound of their voice. What you hear in your head and what other people hear is completely different. It just is. It's an internal cranial resonance type of thing. But this person has legit a, let's just say, differently sounding voice, but they just did it anyway. And they're absolutely crushing it. I'm talking about well over 10 million followers around the various platforms. I was sitting down, and not a brag or anything, but I'm having dinner with Klaus, and Jay said something to the nature of there's these internal projections of external expectations. I want you to process that thought a little bit. When someone says you should be doing X, or you get the thought in your head that your channel should be performing more than it is, that is your own personal internal projection of an external expectation. Pat Flynn had mentioned this idea of creating a new channel and then having the expectation that you are supposed to create more. But what does that create more look like? That schedule is something that you're putting on yourself because you're watching, say, the way I do it. Okay, for instance, I'm here 225 days solid, but this isn't for everybody. This was me to prove a point to the members of the LGL family that I could absolutely crack out 420 videos without even the thought of getting burnout, because I don't believe burnout is real once you have a mission, once you have a purpose. When you have a mission and you have a purpose and you know your why, I feel that gives you the energy to keep going. So I want to prove my point. I wanted to do what we call in the software space, eating your own dog food. So that's why I'm doing this. Also, hanging out with Pat Flynn, and Pat Flynn said, you need to adjust your Wi-Fi. This was one of the best statements I heard. Now, he's not talking about the one up there in the ceiling. He's talking about your why focus introspection. Turn the mirror into yourself and ask your question, why? I know this sounds cliche. People like to push against it because maybe externally your why is you think you're going to make a lot of money. But if that's the case, you will absolutely struggle. I won't say that you can't get there, but you will absolutely struggle. But once you know your why, and you can always answer that why focus introspection, that Wi-Fi, this is easy. I wake up every day knowing I have a mission to teach people to put their fear away and tell their story. Because I have a mission that states the more people I can get to tell that story, the more positive influence and positive energy we can put into the space. People like to talk about influencers with a negative connotation, and I understand why. But what if I, cocky enough to believe I can train a bunch of Gen Xers to put some positive influence out into the world? And therefore, we will be positively influenced. Influence doesn't have to be a negative connotation. If I'm teaching everyone to be happy, everyone to live in the moment, everyone to enjoy life, everyone to share stories, and everyone to pick each other up and live together as a global community, cocky mission, but that is positive influencer. In that case, influencer isn't a bad terminology. I think people think influencers mean I'm going to say some shit you don't eat. That's not true always, right? I have totally read books and then come to talk to you about it because I was positively influenced by the author who wrote that book. Current favorite book right now, The Courage to Be Disliked. I'm going to put the link in the description. I really want you to check that one out. That one is just lighting up all kind of synapses. Between that dinner, talking to Jay Klaus, talking to Pat Flynn, and a bunch of other creators there. Liz Wilcox was there. My buddy Joe Allen was there. Tori Dunlap. Not name dropping, just these are the people that we were having dinner with. We're having this conversation. The two things that stuck in my head is the concept of projecting things on ourselves because of external expectations and having that kind of mess up your flow. And then when Pat stated this concept of your Wi-Fi, that why focus introspection, I was like, damn, son, damn. Now, I just started reading Pat's new book, Lean Learning, and in there, he had a statement that makes me think of all of the people that catastrophize all of the hard things that might come up as you create content. And it was based on the level of, if it were easy, what would it look like? We will. If it were easy, what will it look like? Write that down in the comment section below. If any of this resonates with you, if any of this made sense, write that down in the comment section below. And I don't know who needed to hear this, but if it was you, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, press the like button, press the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you know whenever I create another video like this. And right about now, the algorithm is going to show you another video they think you should watch, and I agree with them.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet.